every Halloween we've done a show, and the whole focus of Pillar of Fire is not just Ray's work. It's mainly preservation and celebration, performance, presentation of Ray's work, but also anything that he was influenced by, which covers a huge spectrum. You know, anything from Poe and Melville and, you know, Hawthorne and to Lon Chaney and Lugosi and King Kong and the dinosaur films to John Steinbeck, because he was influenced by so many. And then also anything that he has influenced. And so that takes us into Stephen King and Neil Gaiman and Clive Barker and, you know, so many, many others. I'm just thinking in dark fantasy and horror right now. You know, in science fiction you can go into even more. So we've done Twilight Zone plays. We did those last year, brought George Clayton Johnson in. We did a screening of The Jar and brought Norman Lloyd and George Lindsay and James Best in, which was one of Ray's television productions. So we've done something every year, not always a fully staged production, but some sort of celebration, either a film screening or a discussion or something of that nature. And then all along we've done readings of his plays as he's finished them.
I look through all the panes of glass. I see all kinds of worlds. Red worlds, green worlds, blue worlds, all different, all colorful.
All kinds of worlds, is it? Yes. All kinds of worlds.
But for this collection, I had done so many of his horror and gothic horror and dark fantasy pieces that there weren't really enough to put together, and there were two pieces that I always thought would make great plays. One of them I had adapted for radio theater, The Man Upstairs, but it relied a great deal on sound and implication and adult narrator recalling things, so I had to completely rewrite it. And then I wrote The Exiles from scratch, and Jim Torres came in and he said, "Do you want to do any multimedia?" And I said, "Yes, The Exiles would be perfect, because we can film the scenes with the astronauts and then have who are the real characters, and then have the fantasy characters who are just spirits be corporeal on stage, you know, so it'll be kind of a nice juxtaposition."
Do you think, Doctor, they know we're coming?
Do you think there really are Martians?
Aren't there? They started fighting us off 8 weeks ago. Before we started, they've already killed Reynolds and now Percy. Yesterday they made Greenville go blind, and how? I don't know. Bats, needles, bad dreams, men dying for no reason. In another time I'd have said witchcraft. This is the year 2120. We are rational human beings. This cannot be happening.
Okay, so you have another show in March?
In March, right before St. Patrick's Day, which is the perfect time to do that, and it's called Falling Upward, and it's set in an Irish pub, and it, unlike Banshee, which Banshee is sort of the dark side of that experience where he was psychologically and emotionally scarred by John Huston for so many years, but also he fell in love with the Irish people. And he fell in love with, you know, their love of life and all sorts of aspects of the Irish culture as it exists, and then as it's been mythologized over the years too.
Go back where you came from.
Is there to be no peace then? Must I walk here, year on year, no comeuppance?
If the man in there really was your William, your Will, what would you have me do?
Say not to me.
What would you do with him?
I lie down with him and ne'er get up again.
Some of Ray's plays are published and are done by colleges, high schools, professional theaters. There was a production of Fahrenheit that was done in New York. So some of the plays we've done are being done regularly other places. Fahrenheit 451 is occasionally done. The Martian Chronicles is occasionally done. And some of the one-acts, Kaleidoscope, The Veldt, The Pedestrian, which was one of the plays we did in August. It was the only published play we did in August. The rest of them were unpublished plays. All of these are unpublished. The two I did and the two he did have never been published. So some of them are available and are done, but most of these are so new that he's done them for performance out there and here, and has not really, you know, he would be interested in having other people do them, I'm sure. In fact, he knows the director of the Shakespeare Festival in Montgomery, and he's asked me to go down and meet with him and take him some scripts.
5 years ago, a man was walking along the street, and he knew he'd been walking the same street on many nights. river, rushing toward the sea, toward other places and things. And he bent down and lifted up the cistern lid and looked down at the rushing foam and the water. And he thought of someone he wanted to love and couldn't. And then he swung himself down and on the iron rungs and walked down them until there was nothing left save his hand drawing the lid shut after him. And the rain hit on the lid for all the rest of the night.
What about her? When did she die?
I'm not sure. She's new. She's just dead, just now. But she is dead. Beautifully, beautifully dead. It takes death to make a woman really beautiful.
The Man Upstairs originally had 2 scenes that were going to be filmed. And the scene in Koberman's room, where Douglas goes into Koberman's room, and then another scene, the final scene with the coroner, where both scenes in Koberman's room were going to be filmed. And Jim and I met, and he said, I like what you've done with the Exiles, because you've got these astronauts in space who are completely removed. You've got a chance to differentiate these 2 worlds by putting one of them on film. The Man Upstairs, you go from something you're actualizing on stage to something in the same house that you're suddenly putting up on film. And I said, you're right. I said, something about this bothered me. So I went through, and Ray's mantra is, when in doubt, simplify, streamline. So I went in and I simplified those scenes to where they were just done there in the house, and to where you didn't actually see Douglas go inside Koberman's room. You just had him go in.
For you, my boy, 10 new copper pennies. Put them in your pocket. We shall be friends.
And I realized it would have been distracting, and it would have kind of spoiled the spell, and it would have pulled the audience out of the live scene and into something else. In the Exiles, it's more selective, because you get a different look, a different feel, more of a naturalistic kind of, interaction between those people, and it's black and white. And then, even though most of them were wearing black, the scenes that are staged, you've got St. Nicholas and Dickens in color, and it's very vibrant, very stylized, and very kind of over the top and mad and delirious, and it's, it's like Alice in Wonderland.
What do you want?
We've come to plead with you again, Charles. We need your help.
Help? Do you think I would help you fight against those good men coming in the rocket? I don't belong here anyway. My books were burned by mistake. I'm no supernaturalist.
Now, in the development of his career, he began by trying to write some science fiction stories, and he felt like he wasn't really hitting his stride with those. So he sort of shifted gears and started writing more of the weird tales. And by writing those, he sort of greased his own creative wheels to where when he was able to go back and try and write science fiction, that he suddenly had a grasp of it. So I think he does see that there's a connection there, that it's all, part of fantasy and part of that whole, theater of the mind, as he calls it. And yeah, because The Exiles and Pillar of Fire and Usher 2 in particular, which is a story from Martian Chronicles, which we staged a few years ago, a great story, mix science fiction and gothic horror as if they, are just part of the same, like you say, it's the same continuum. And you do see that in other writers and in especially in other filmmakers. You see gothic elements in science fiction. So it takes place in an Irish pub, and it's all men, and it's about this group of hard-living, tough guys in Heber Finn's pub who are suddenly invaded by these effeminate dandies, and they don't know what to do about it. And it's kind of a contrast between these different sort of male bonding circles and how they realize over the course of the play, comedically, how much they really have in common.